During the International Bird Flu Summit in Washington, D.C., in October, they will discuss mass fatality management planning. Michael Snyder on The End of the American Dream reports, we're being told that it's just a matter of time before there is a bird flu pandemic among humans. We are also being told that the death rate during such a pandemic could be somewhere between 25 and 50%, and that should deeply alarm all of us. We have already seen the intense fear that a pandemic with a death rate of far less than 1% can cause. Can you imagine what a pandemic with a death rate of somewhere between 25 and 50% would be like? Some of us don't even want to think about going through another major pandemic, but one may be coming anyway. Right now, many among the elite are deeply focused on the threat that the bird flu poses. An international bird flu summit will be held in Washington, D.C. from October 2nd to October 4th, and according to the official brochure for the event, they will be discussing, quote, a highly virulent strain of bird flu affecting both cattle and humans, end quote. Welcome to the International Bird Flu Summit, where we address the pressing concerns surrounding the recent developments in avian influenza, with the emergence of a highly virulent strain of bird flu affecting both cattle and humans. It is imperative that we come together to discuss preparedness, response strategies, and the future implications of this evolving situation. A bird flu pandemic would be far worse than anything that we have been through so far. On the list of topics for this summit, the very first one is mass fatality management planning. Mass fatality management planning, surveillance and data management, preparing community strategy, local partnership and participation, delivery of vaccine and antiviral medication, medical countermeasures, socioeconomic impact on poultry and livestock industries, benefit risk analysis, public health, industry and regulatory perspectives, prevention, education efforts and risk communication, command, control and management, emergency response management, business-based planning, school-based planning, community-based planning. Personally, I have never heard a talk on mass fatality management planning. I don't suppose that such a talk would be especially cheerful. Unfortunately, if H5N1 starts spreading widely among humans, there will be a lot of deaths. Former CDC Director Robert Redfield recently told NewsNation that he believes that a bird flu pandemic is coming and that the death rate will be somewhere between 25 and 50%. A bird flu pandemic is inevitable, and it's only a matter of time before it strikes, according to former Centers for Disease Control and Prevention CDC Director Robert Redfield. Redfield's comments come amid mounting concerns over the detection of the virus in dozens of cattle herds across the United States and the first reported human death in Mexico. In a recent interview with NewsNation, Redfield expressed his belief that a bird flu pandemic is highly likely. I really do think it's very likely that we will at some times, he said. It's not a question of if, it's more a question of when we will have a bird flu pandemic. He emphasized the significant mortality rate associated with the virus, with an estimation of a mortality rate of somewhere between 25 and 50%, in contrast to the 0.6% death rate observed in the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the past 2 years, we've already seen more than 100 million birds get wiped out, and now mammals all over the planet are getting infected in large numbers. So far, very few humans have caught the disease, so we should be very thankful for that. But in early July, we did learn that a farm worker has become the fourth confirmed case in the United States. A Colorado dairy farmer worker is the nation's fourth person to test positive for the highly contagious H5N1 bird flu virus, the Centers for Disease Control announced on Wednesday. The infected worker is employed on a dairy farm where cows tested positive for H5N1 and is the first person in Colorado to be infected by the bird flu. The other 3 people who also tested positive for bird flu also work on dairy farms where cows tested positive for the virus. Should we start bracing ourselves for the worst? I don't know. One recent study that was conducted on humanized mice, quote unquote, and ferrets produced some very chilling results. Researchers from the University of Wisconsin-Madison Texas A&M Veterinary Medical Diagnostic Laboratory, and 2 Japanese universities studied how H5N1 has evolved since the March outbreak by infecting humanized mice and ferrets in experiments funded by the National Institute of Health. Ferrets develop similar respiratory tract infections to humans and develop similar clinical symptoms, making them good models for understanding flu transmission patterns. When infected by directly inserting virus particles into their noses, both mice and ferrets develop respiratory symptoms. But even though H5N1 has mutated in alarming ways, right now there is no evidence that human-to-human transmission is taking place. Unfortunately, authorities in some countries are not taking any chances and have started to implement measures that are quite dramatic. Workers at poultry and fur farms in Finland will, in the coming days, receive vaccines against bird flu. 14 other EU countries have signed up to procure bird flu vaccines through a program set up by the European Commission. America's government has also bought vaccines in anticipation of a pandemic, and it recently commissioned Moderna, a pharmaceutical company, to create an mRNA bird flu vaccine using a technology that was effective in protecting against COVID-19. Hopefully nothing will happen. Hopefully there will not be a bird flu pandemic, because after all of the pain and suffering that the last one caused, most of us don't want to ever go through something like that ever again. And sadly, we live in a time when scientists are playing around with the most deadly bugs ever known to humanity in secret labs all over the planet. And once a bug gets out, it can spread across the globe in the blink of an eye. As my regular readers already know, I believe that worldwide pestilences will be a major theme during the years that are ahead of us. I don't know if the bird flu will be one of those pestilences, but I will be watching it very carefully, because once widespread human-to-human transmission of the bird flu is confirmed, everything will change. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and The Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times, and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.